Howdy, welcome back to the Guillemot Kayaks Workshop. I'm Nick Schade and we're working on making kayak paddles. So in this episode, I'm going to start shaping the blade. I'll use some power tools to do some rough shaping, then start working with some hand tools and finish up with hand tools to get a really refined final shape. At this point, the blade still has that original taper that we cut into the blade blanks. It's about a ½ inch here and tapers down to about a ¼ inch at this end. And that's all the way through the width of the blade. This is a pretty heavy blade right now. I want to take off quite a bit of weight. I want this taper to provide strength, but I don't need the full width all the way out to the edge. I'd like to get it down to about an 1/8 inch all the way around the perimeter. So that's 2.5 or 3 millimeters, something like that. So I'm just going to take and mark around this edge about an 1/8 inch. People are generally afraid to take too much wood off their paddle and end up with a really heavy war club. Obviously, you leave it thicker, it's going to be stronger. My intention is to put fiberglass on this, and that's going to give it a huge amount of strength. So I can take this down quite thin and still have a strong paddle and have it be lightweight. I'm also going to put a reinforced edge all the way around it, so even though it's thin, it's going to be a good tough paddle. So I want to mark that 1/8 inch all the way around the perimeter of all the blades. With the blades cut out and roughly shaped, it's now time to do the fine shaping, get it down where we want it, or at least a lot closer. At this point, I've got the square edges left from the shaft, and it comes in at a sharp angle here. It's still quite thick back here. So I want to get it down to this 1/8 inch thick mark that I made earlier. And I want to create a smooth transition in the throat of the paddle here from the back of the blade onto the shaft, so there's not a stress riser there. Again, this is going to get fiberglassed. I want the fiberglass to wrap smoothly around that surface. I want to continue this radius down the shaft a bit on both sides and then blend the blade up into that. So I'm going to be removing wood from the blade to create the fillet. I'm going to be removing wood from the shaft to create the round over. I don't want to lose a lot of wood from the shaft blending into that fillet. I want most of the wood to be in the blade that I'm removing. So this is what it should look like when I'm done with this process. So again, I've got a nice smooth fillet up in here. The blade is about 1/8 of an inch thick, both sides. The radius of this shaft continues down onto the blade, and again you can see the full width of the blade stock right in here, but it quickly rounds down to the thin shape of the blade here. In the middle of the blade it's just sort of crowned slightly, coming out to 1/8 inch on either side. I want that all nice and smooth. I'm using a variety of tools for this. The first thing I'm doing is just starting to round off this corner here. And I'll use a block plane or something like that just to start to blend that in. So when I go to do this radius in here, I don't have that wood blocking my view of what's going on. So that radius is made with the block plane in like this. Then I take my right angle grinder, and I've got one of these nasty carbide, I think these are called a Galahad or something like that. right angle grinder attachment. And this is a coarse carbide that really removes wood fast. It has no flex at all to it, so it doesn't blend well. It tends to, where you touch it, it cuts. So I'm using that to remove most of the wood in that little fillet area in there. So I'm bringing it in, trying not to hit the shaft with the blue part of the tool here. And I use this because it removes a lot of wood really quickly. Again, it's not precision particularly. It's not going to do a fine job. You know, it can with practice, but that's not why I'm using it. I'm using it just to hog the wood out. And then I come in with my other right angle grinder. I've got 36 grit on here. And I use that to start to thin the blade down along the edges here, blending it in from the middle, and blending in whatever gouge I made with the blue tool here, and blending that down to the side. I use a couple different tools to refine the shape in here. This microplane, about a 3/4 inch diameter, fits really nicely up in there. And I can use that to carve away the wood and to start to blend this in, ferre that out a little bit. Again, I'm trying not to cut into the shaft itself. I'm just trying to hit the darker wood here and make a radius so it comes up and smoothly connects with that surface there. The final shaping I'm doing with this little luthier's plane. It's got a rounded sole on it, and that again fits right in there. I'm looking to get rid of all signs of the glue right in that seam right there. I'll also use a block plane to come and refine this surface here, ferre it out. The right angle grinders, again, are not very good at ferring. They're just removing a lot of wood quickly. And, you know, I'd rather not use the right angle grinders. They kick a lot of dust in the air. That's why I've got my dust collector here set up to try and bring in a lot of that dust that I'm making with the right angle grinder. But I can do a good job of ferring this down. Again, I'm aiming for that 1/8 inch line I made along the edge. Thin it down all the way around, and this makes the blade lighter and makes it cut into the water more smoothly, and that'll make a really nice paddle. So since I am using the right angle grinder, I have my setup for working on this based around my dust collection here. I've got sawhorses on either side. I clamp the piece down to the sawhorse over my dust collection, so hopefully most of the fine dust gets immediately sucked into the dust collector. And I'm working on one side at a time so I can clamp it either way and work on this side comfortably. It wouldn't hurt for me to have this a little bit higher, but this is my sawhorse height, and so that's where I'm going with. Again, it's a matter of getting rid of this excess wood in here, blending it into the shaft, blending this shaft down, making everything nice and smooth, thin, lightweight, and still strong. So now I'm going to do some cleanup on the back side here and just blend it all in nicely. It's a little bit hard to do good planing the way I had it when I was doing the grinding over the dust collection there. So here I have the cutoffs from some of the blanks that just give me good support, and this way I can get a plane on there and apply some pressure. Before I do that, I need to reestablish my 1/8 inch thickness line around the edge here because I'd sanded it off in the prior step. So we'll just go, once again, draw an 1/8 inch line out here. So at this point I want to get this blade nice and uniformly thick, get the blend in here really smooth and nice. Make sure there's no sort of flat spots on the back face here. And I'll use a variety of tools to work on that. I still have the microplane. I've got a foam block with some 60 and 80 grit sandpaper on it. There's some 80 grit sandpaper on the sanding block. Got a block plane. I still have my little luthier's plane. I've got a variety of rasps. This is one of those Japanese float rasps. I've got a Nicholson here. See what I end up using. A little rat tail file. So whatever I need to get into these shapes and just blend everything together. right here at the throat of the blade where the shaft and the blade converge. We want to blend this all together so there's no sharp edges there, and get the cedar of the blade here to blend smoothly in to the shaft of the Sitka spruce and get a nice rounded corner at the throat of the blade here. So I'm using a variety of tools to get in there and just blend that all in, and the rounded edge of sandpaper on a foam block, again 60 or 80 grit, does a really nice job getting right in there, and that will make a nice smooth blend. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So you see here it starts at a sort of square edge with straight edges on it, and we want to blend that into a nice curved edge. So that's it for this episode. In the next episode, we'll do some finish sanding and put an edging around the blade. And if I'm lucky, I'll get some glass on the blades as well. We'll see how far we get in the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode and learned anything, give it a like or a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow my Facebook page. If you're really into it, I have a Patreon page that contributes to the production of these videos, and every little bit of support helps. So until the next episode, thanks for watching and happy paddling.